We're back with Press TV's special coverage of the events in the region. It's 101 days on February 28th. A lot has happened since then. 40 days of war, followed by more than 60 days of a ceasefire, which was unilaterally extended by Donald Trump. Some confrontations actually happened between Iran and the U.S. Regarding the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. And at the same time, a lot has happened when it came to the Israeli aggression on Lebanon and Iran's Nasr operation. Now, regarding that, let me bring in Press TV's political correspondent, Alireza Akbari, to shed some light on what is happening. And also joining us will be Don DeBar, activist and commentator, joining us from the city of New York. Alireza, briefly, if you can, please bring our viewers up to speed on what has happened in the past 48 hours.
You know, after all, we carried out this Nasr operation, which was mostly wanted by many people and freedom seekers around the world. And finally, people found what was Iran's response. The thing is that I have to say there are some latest developments in the field regarding the axis of resistance and how netizens, especially on social media, are reacting about Iran's response, which was called the Nasr operation. I have to say this is the first time that Iran was not waiting to see what the U.S. and Israeli regimes are going to do. It took this step. It was the initiative by Iran. It responded to multiple violations of these so-called ceasefire that, as you know, that Israeli regime was kept bombing southern Lebanon, and many people were killed there. And we had some sort of violations by the U.S. regime in southern Iran in terms of the maritime piracy that they exercised in international waters. And finally, Iran responded then with Nasr operation. And the thing is that after Iran responded, it was Yemen once again involved in this dilemma, and it targeted the Israeli regime. The thing is that after this, many analysts are talking on social media, and they are saying, okay, now Strait of Hormuz is under the control of Iran, and what will happen if Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, again, it comes under the control of Yemen, and there will be much strengthened some sort of pressure on the U.S. and Israeli regimes after their repeated sort of aggressions. And the thing is that I have to say, Iran started this attack, let me say the response. And after that, it said, yeah, it's over, we responded. This is the first time that you are seeing Iran taking the first step and answering to the breaches of this so-called ceasefire. And the thing is that this operation broke a very big media propaganda. As you know, on social media, many, let me say, so-called officials were trying to say, and some media outlets and their propaganda machine, that they were trying to say, okay, Iran sacrificed the axis of resistance for the sake of ceasefire, but Iran should. It was not true. Lebanon and the stop of war on Lebanon and aggression on Lebanon was a red line for Iran, and Iran firmly showed that it is backing Lebanon and the Lebanese people, and the Israeli regime should stop its aggression on Lebanon. And this Nasr operation was a very clear message for the U.S. and Israeli regimes. And after all, I have to say that there was a kind of unity once again among the axis of resistance in the world, that you see any attack on any part of this axis of resistance will bring response from some other parts, because these resistance groups, they are whole as a kind of unity and as a kind of single group that they may take steps and initiatives and to respond to U.S. and Israeli aggressions. This time you saw that Iran attacked Israel, and after that Yemen took the initiative and targeted the Israeli regime. And these are all coming in response to the multiple days of aggression in southern Lebanon that Israel was bombing this area.
Thank you so much, Alireza. Now, let me bring in Don DeBar, activist and commentator, joining us from the city of New York into this conversation. Mr. DeBar, thank you for coming back to Press TV. The first question that I wanted to ask you, what was your first reaction when you realized that Iran is responding to the Israeli aggression against the southern suburbs of Beirut and also southern Lebanon as well?
Here in the United States, there's an awful lot of discussion of international affairs by people that they really don't consider all of the uh, inputs into making decisions. That you have whatever the situation is on the ground as the context for your actions. And there's the relative distribution of forces, but also the placement of them. So that if you understand, if you're going to develop a strategy to engage, retaliate, to take the initiative, etc., you know when and where to strike, when and where to not strike, in terms of trying to actually be successful, not in terms of trying to win like a morality play or something, but to actually advocate for the people that you say you're advocating for instead of giving them lip service. And so, first thing that happened when I saw Iran engage back in February was that I had a sense of deja vu for when I saw the reality of the Vietnam War when I was in my late teens and ready to get shipped off to be killed like two of my cousins. Um, that is that the empire is not invulnerable. That it can not only be wounded, but it can be thwarted and even defeated, and that there are people in the world who understand that reality and are willing to engage. And it is something that, as it's discouraging to see war and people die and such, but it's encouraging if you're looking at any hope for humanity's survival and not to be under the yoke of this construct that sucks everyone's blood. It's encouraging to see that it is in fact possible to engage the empire and emerge victorious. And so when I see Iran being tactful about when to retaliate for hits on Lebanon and then to do it and to see that it was done properly from a military and strategic standpoint, I understand what I'm looking at. And I'm trying now, hoping by speaking with you and the people that watch this here in the United States, we're getting some understanding of the fact that it requires patience and maturity to engage Iran with a very ancient civilization and a very mature one, of course, understands this much better than I ever could.
Mr. DeBar, there are talks, especially after the Iranian strike on different areas of Israel. There were so many different talks of rifts between Donald Trump and Netanyahu, saying that Donald Trump even said to Netanyahu that you're going to be alone if you keep striking Iran, and in case of an Iranian retaliation. How much close do you see those remarks to reality?
Right, that is the question. I mean, the apparent, the what's on television, what's being debated, what you get little snippets of tape about, quotes, etc. It's real there, if you call that real. But if you take a step back and look at what actually we're talking about Israel, so called, as a colony of the Western construct, which includes the United States as, in essence, a colony, because there is a group that manages and owns, the actual wealth and decision-making processes of Western Europe, the United States, Japan, Korea, and South Korea, and some other places, Australia, etc. That really, what's going to happen is going to be decided by them and or those opposing them, like Iran and maybe Russia, China, whoever. Um, the decision about how close the United States will align itself, um, apparently, the decision will be made looking at internal politics in the United States. What will best? I mean, look, job one for any action that's taken by any of these governments is maintenance of the position of the people at the top that put all of these people into the administrative positions in the first place: president, prime minister, member of the Knesset, member of the U.S. Congress, whatever. Those people do not get in because they walked in off the street or because they're solid, intelligent, top of their game citizens who want to engage. They are placed there because everyone else gets gatekeeped out of it. And so the decisions are being made behind the puppetry that we're looking at. And the puppetry includes Trump and Netanyahu. Now, it's possible that, in their roles as administrators or face of administration, that whatever tug of war they genuinely feel over this issue, or the immediate elites behind them feel, may have some input into this. But the minute it looks like there's going to be some kind of uprising in the United States over this, and that won't be quelled by either Facebook division groups, so everybody's fighting with each other, or whatever means there is to cause dissent and distraction here, when it looks like there might be the inkling of an actual threat to the power of the people here, whatever needs to be done will be done to make them stop doing this and make them do something else. That's my belief, studying this for the last 55, 60 years.
That's right. Thank you so much. I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Debar. Ali Reza, when it comes to the U.S. behavior towards Iran, especially after the war, something that has been we have been witnessing in the past few days is how the U.S. is giving and dragging its feet when it comes to issuing visas to to Iranian athletes, and of course, different athletes of different countries as well. What is happening on social media on that front?
The thing is that, as far as I understood, there are some sort of reactions to the double standard, what netizens are calling and talking about it, by the U.S. regime, yes, and how they are treating the sport and this big sport event that we are having ahead.
You have the first tweet?
Yeah, the first tweet and the first comment comes by Maggie Johnson, that she says this kind of selective treatment breeds resentment. FIFA should boycott America immediately, in my view, and tell them no games and move them as fast as possible to countries that are not bigoted, racist, and love soccer. You know, after all, one of the slogans of this big event is unity among people and bringing everyone together, and they are going to watch sport and football and enjoy. But the thing is that here we are having some sort of issues from the side of United States, not only to Iranian footballers, but also there was someone from Iraq that I understood. Also, he had some visa issues. And as I understood, the second comment comes by David, that he says FIFA, USA, etc. are a disgrace. US attacked Iran, yet the Iranians, who the world loves and admires, are being disrespected by officials. Football is about uniting people, yet US, Israel, UK, and EU want war. Pathetic. Once again, this comment shows that how they are applying some sort of double standards. The essence of this big event is some sort of unity and enjoying your time. But after all, you are seeing netizens are also having their reactions to the behavior by the US government. And the third comment comes by Sam. And he writes, Israel wasn't banned for genocide in Gaza, nor for attacking Lebanon or Iran. US invaded Venezuela, kidnapped the president, bombed and still bombing Iran, caused blackouts in Cuba that led to thousands of deaths. Yet they are hosting the World Cup. Double standard. This comment was a bit more comprehensive, that you see that Sam referred to both the behavior of the Israeli regime and the US regime in face of the genocide that they carried out for some 2 years in Gaza. I believe, Kiarash, the genocide in Gaza, that could not happen without the green light by the US regime. Absolutely. And now they are facing no repercussion, and they are hosting this big event. And the next one, next comment comes by netizen Emma, writing that in the first place, the US, with its aggressive policies, shouldn't have been allowed to host any game or organize under FIFA, just like Russia was banned over the Ukraine war. The thousands of lives lost in Iran and Gaza should have been enough to red flag this set. I should say, Kiarash, there was some sort of movement and hashtags on social media. Even in Iran, we had this initiative in the central city of Isfahan. It was called Red Card to Donald Trump. That was very interesting, that people, a kind of popular foundation, people gathered and they were showing red card to Donald Trump and his aggressive policies. And here you see this cricketer, it says everything, that he's holding some sort of medal and a cup in his hand, but threatening the whole world. The thing that this shows very clearly how contradictions are going on in Donald Trump's behavior and remarks, that ahead of this big event, he's threatening everyone. Attacked Venezuela, now verbal attacks threatening Cuba, Greenland, and the aggression in Iran still goes on. And finally, we have one other cricketer that you see that the door, which should have been open for everyone to watch and enjoy that game, the World Cup. It is, here we have the smaller one, written visa regulations, but this country is manipulating this sort of advantage, and it is using it as a sort of tool to have a kind of double standard to whoever it likes. It gives visa to whoever it doesn't like. It doesn't give visa, as you know, for Iran's team Melli and the football players. We had some visas for some football players, but some other staff and the officials, they didn't get visa. And it makes it very difficult for Team Melli in these sport events.
These games as well. It's very interesting that Donald Trump is also the recipient of the FIFA Peace Prize just before the games were to begin. Thank you so much, Alireza. Mr. Debar, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
You keep talking about the empire and the U.S. and the hegemons in general when their hegemony is threatened to this extent, an existential threat, let's call it. They try to do everything in their power to keep that hegemony in place, to keep the world unipolar. Do you think the U.S. is going to be successful in keeping this world unipolar, or do you think that ship has already sailed?
It's taken me a while to arrive at, however valid it is, the understanding that I have of things. I guess I've been trying to really grapple with that question since 1991, when this, the Soviet Union disassembled or was disassembled. And I think that the question is rather, first of all, what is the empire? We think of it. We tend to, we do. We speak of it. Even the academy discusses it in terms of nation states, rather than a class. And I would say a class, in sort of in the model, certainly updated 2 centuries, but in the model of Marx and Engels, there is a group that inherited the block of capital that was assembled in the 19th century. And further developed in the 20th century, and that sit on top of it, and with that, it translates directly into power, not just political power, but control of the military, control of the governments of these countries, which in turn translates into control of the security forces, the military, the intelligence agencies, and general production and communication activity. If you think about it in those terms, you think that there is, whoever it is that, for example, gets to dictate policy at Google, Facebook, NBC, Congress, this is the same group of people. And I'm not saying it's the same group by some ethnicity or other, category that we're used to thinking of it in. But the holders of that, of the control of the stock and or whatever devices they actually honor behind that, are the things that are the most important. Now, we can't see any of this, of course, but it's obvious that there's something like that there. And so, looking at across what I call the empire, what a lot of people call the empire, you have the home, like the Rome of the empire, is the United States, particularly New York and Washington D.C., maybe Hollywood, L.A., whatever. But the United States, the UK to a large degree, I think primarily because it still has administration in some of its former colonies, and to a lesser degree the same with France and maybe even Italy and some others. But the most important thing I think that we need to look at when we're looking at this is that even in the United States, there's no actual sovereignty. The United States, contrary to popular belief, is nothing like a democracy. And so this group that I'm referring to, that is not a figment of my imagination, but actually exists, they dominate and control the operation of the government here, more, maybe not as visible, but more directly than anywhere else in the world. And so I'm, again, taking out, if you made the United States of America disappear, the international order would not change much. They would have to assemble perhaps another military, which they're doing in Europe already, right? I mean, they're working on that for a little while, and Japan, by the way, right? But in terms of interrupting the control of the class that dominates the planet pretty much outside of the resistance, and not much would change if you took out the United States. And so that's the reason a lot of people here are nervous with all the paranoid fantasies that they have, or perhaps they're not, about being depopulated and all these other things out of existence, because we're not needed to control the world anymore.
And Jose, when it comes to the rifts, the tensions between Donald Trump and Netanyahu, do you also see them something that is really happening, or do you just see them as a farce, let's just say, tactics of negotiations of Donald Trump's?
Actually,
I think it's symbology.
Sorry, Mr.
Intended
DeBoer, that
for-
question was directed at my colleague. I will come back to you.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Kiarash, you brought a very good point here. And I have to say that after all, Donald Trump, after Iran's natural operation, saw everything is gone. Let me say clearly that Donald Trump was thinking about, okay, I have the upper hand, I can make some sort of violations in southern Iran, some small sorts of aggression. And I can drag Iran into a tit-for-tat measure, what we call a war of attrition. But it didn't work. You know what? After the limitations that Donald Trump got from the Congress, he found himself that he is not that much free to have anything in its aggression on Iran. And now when he saw the response by Iran to try to shift the blame on Netanyahu and said that, yeah, it was on you that this started. And quote unquote, Donald Trump said, you have no other choice. But you saw that it didn't work. Iran responded, and after that we had the Israeli aggression. Donald Trump was trying to keep face either in social media and say that, yeah, I'm the one who's controlling everything. I'm the one who is trying to bring peace. I'm the one who's going to control market. But after, I can say back in the initial days of this aggression, he was successful to control market for some just 10 days with his remarks and posts on social media. But after that, everyone noticed that he's not the one who's going to control everything. And this brought up in social media that people were saying, Donald Trump, the world does not evolve around you. And the comment that he had for Netanyahu, to me, in my perspective, it is just a theater. You cannot believe that the aggression that is going on in Lebanon by the Israeli regime, I'm sure that it is being done by the green light of the U.S. And what the U.S. is going to do, it is for the favor of the Israeli regime. And after all, from the side of American people, that I'm having some friends and they are texting me and they are saying that where the taxpayer dollars are being spent. Our government is fighting the war for Israel, and we are paying the cost of it.
That's right. Mr. DeBoer, more than 100 days since February 28th, what do you think are the endgame scenarios for the West Asia region?
I'm hoping the endgame scenario is that this is used as cover for an accommodation, peace, the withdrawal of the U.S. as as a player directly in the affairs of that region, which happens to be populated by nations of people quite capable of directing their own affairs, and that the wall that the U.S. provides around what's called Israel is taken apart brick by brick, hopefully very quickly. And that the people of Palestine are able to, find justice there in that. And here, some measure of control is provided over the U.S. government so that they don't feel that they have the ability, let alone the right, to do what they've been doing here and around the world for several decades now.
Sir Don DeBoer, activist and commentator, joining us from the city of New York, and Press TV's political correspondent Ali Reza Akbari joining us right here. Thank you both for your time today.